Hey there, my name is Tony Mazzola, and as you probably can tell, I am not a guildsman, but I am representing a guildsman. He is a gentleman by the name of Ron Steinhilber. Now, this is Ronnie in 1960, and the reason I'm showing you this is that this is the reference pictures that I got from his family, because Ronnie's no longer with us. We lost Ronnie in the year 2000, but what's here is his legacy, and as you look down here, you can see this is his entire legacy of the Fisher Body Craftsman Guild, where he started in 1960, building this white one out of plaster. He then went on to build this next one out of wood in 1961. In 1962, this particular one was made out of fiberglass. The next one was in 1963, also out of fiberglass. And his last one, because he was too old to compete anymore, is also made out of fiberglass. Now, the reason why I got interested in this is that when my wife and I were notified by her family that he passed on, we decided to attend his memorial service on Long Island. So we went. He originally was the owner of a place called the Pink House, which is a bed and breakfast. So his dad was there along with his family. So when we arrived, it was the day before, his dad invited us to walk around and check out the house because he was pretty much an artist, sculptor, a real Renaissance man. So my wife and I both walked around, and on the second floor in the corner were these models. But they weren't in this condition. They were literally covered in dust, dirt, missing parts. And I was like really blown away because at the time I was the president of a model car club, and I said, what a really neat show and tell. I'll photograph these and bring them to a next meeting and talk a little bit about them. And when I asked my wife, do you know anything about these models? And she said, yeah, he entered some contest and he won. The end. So, you know, I never realized until I started doing research how much of a big deal these things were, because what's interesting is he won 5 times. He won every single time he entered. The middle, this one right here, won a styling award, and in 1962, that's $1,000. So that was pretty amazing. This one on the end, built in 1964, was up for a national award winner, but it didn't make it because someone else beat him out. But it sort of reminds you of a
minivan.
Minivan, exactly. Couldn't remember the word. But when I acquired them, never did I realize how this was going to affect me, because, as I said, we were at this memorial service, and when I wanted to photograph them, I had mentioned to my wife, do you think it'd be a little bad taste if I asked her father if I could photograph them? And she said, all he could say is no. What have you got to lose? So we brought them out on the patio, I began photographing them, and that's when he came along. So her uncle, Ronnie's father, Norman, began to tell us the story about his winnings. They were exhibited all together in 1965 at the New York World's Fair, which is pretty amazing. And once that was all done, he went off and pretty much was working throughout the city of New York. Again, I'm trying to remember everything that I remember. But he was a sculptor. He was a neon sculptor. Let's see, he was a painter.
Soapbox derby.
Oh yeah, he also built soapbox derby cars with his kids. But anyway, getting back to the models and how I got involved with this is that at the end of the ceremony on Sunday, we were getting ready to pack up, and his father had realized the interest I had taken in them, and where I felt that these really belonged in a museum and not just in a closet or in a back hall. He had said, you know, I think you know how to fix these better than I ever will, and I don't really think that anything good is going to happen to them if they just stay in this house. I'm going to give you my son's cars. And so I was absolutely floored. I mean, both my wife and I were floored. And I said, look, I don't want to own these cars. What I'll do is, you send me photographs, and that's what these are, of what they used to look like. I'll try to repair them and remanufacture some of the missing pieces so I can try to see if I can get them in a museum. So, beginning in 2001, I started doing the research because, like I said, I took the cars home wrapped them in beach towels, and went to the arduous task of beginning to clean them and figure out how to repair some of these things. So it took a number of years before I was able to get photographs. In the meantime, the Fisher Body Craftsman Guild reunion's beginning. The first one my wife and I were invited to was the one that took place in the Heritage Museum, where General Motors is. We couldn't attend because of work commitments. But in 2008, the next one that was going to happen was the one that took place at the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, Massachusetts. So I was contacted again, only this time I said, I'm going to make a point of getting these things finished and ready for presentation. So that's when I really pleaded with the family to send me photographs. So as you can see, these are all period photographs of these cars when they were built, with other information to help me along. And this is when I started realizing the parts that needed to be remanufactured. So I was able to repair these four. So from 61 to 64, I submitted for approval for the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. These three were the ones that were accepted, and so I finally kept part of my promise to Julie's uncle that I was going to put these in a museum, but they were only in a museum for 2 days. So back they come. So in the interim, I began attending additional reunion shows, and I would bring these along with this last one, which was in real disrepair because when it was returned from the World's Fair, it was broken here. So it was a real severe repair job. So I decided to play with what I had, and so that's why I did what I did. So as more shows continued and more events continued, I found someone to house these. So these are currently in a museum, and I'm happy to say that they're on display all the time. When this event in Dayton, Ohio was on its 4th year, I said, you know what, I think it's time for all 5 of them to be on display again. So on a tear for the past 3 months, working on this one. And as you can see, I had to repaint this one for the simple fact that breakage, missing parts, it took a long time to get this one to ship shape for this event. So luckily I was able to utilize a lot of the original parts, but I had to remanufacture the steering wheel and the wheels themselves, because what Ronnie did is he cannibalized this one to build this one. So if you notice, the wheels are identical, except that I had a friend of mine, his name Tom Valenta, mill these on his lathe, and I was able to recreate the steering wheel based on this one. So happily to say, a few days before this event took place, it was all ready to go, it was packed up, and for the first time since 1965, they've all been shown at the same time. So I'm proud to say that I was able to keep my promise officially to Julie's uncle, and I can say that because of this was my little life-changing event to find out, to basically experience what you, the Gilsman, experienced, because it was a lot of pressure to get these things to the way they are. And you really get to appreciate the amount of work that went into these things, because hand-making these handles may look like nothing, but sometimes you have to make 2 or 3 to get the right shape because you're duplicating a left and a right, But anyway, I won't bore you with those details. But all I can say is I wanted to share my experiences with the Fisher Body. And my dear, please come over here and introduce yourself. This is my wife. This is Ronnie's cousin, Julie Steinhilber. So if it wasn't for her, I never would have been involved in the Fisher Body experience. So anyway, I hope this gives you a little bit of a smile, just to show you that sometimes you do stuff for the love of it and not for the dollar value. Anyway, have a good day. Bye now.